After I was expelled from the school, I ended up moving to the capital city, Tehran. And I have a sister who's older than me, and I lived with her and her husband for a couple of years. And it was difficult. It was definitely not an easy thing for someone at that age to be forced to live away from his parents. But then again, I was grateful that I was alive, and I had the opportunity to keep moving forward. And then that was in 1981 that I was expelled from school. In 1983, we reunited, my parents and I, in Shiraz. So my parents decided to move to a new town and, in a sense, start all over again in a new community, in a new city. We didn't know much about Shiraz. It was about 800 kilometers away from where we used to live. As luck would have it, we moved in June of 1983 to a town, to an area of a town that just a month prior they had burned down all Baha'i homes. And so we had picked literally the worst possible spot. And literally the month that we moved there, they killed the 10 Baha'i girls, including Mona. We were fortunate to get to know Mona and her family, her mom and her sister really well in the coming months and years. Mona's dad was also killed, executed, again, for nothing, no reason, but the fact that he was a Baha'i. We lived in Shiraz for the next few years. So in 1983, now you got to keep in mind that Baha'is were expelled from school, from work, and young Baha'is did not have the opportunity to go to university or in a sense, get a job. It was very difficult to get a job because who in their right mind would want to hire a Baha'i and get themselves in trouble? And definitely government jobs were not available to Baha'is. So my brother, who was older than me, had finished high school. He, with the help of my parents, started a business making green pads for washing dishes. And it kind of became a family business. And at this time, Iran was under embargo. It was post the hostage crisis, and the war with Iraq had started. So imagine all the bad things that can happen are happening to this country. But then on top of that, being a Baha'i means you got all the other problems that, you're inflicted by your own people. So my family started this business in Shiraz, and it actually became a fairly successful business. We became one of the biggest producers of these, washing pads in the country. And my brother ran the small little factory we had, and my dad was kind of the sales guy. And we produce these things in mass quantity. I was only 13, 14. I worked with them. And that went on for probably a couple of years. Did really well for a couple of years. But then the embargo was lifted by many countries. And so it was possible to bring these things from outside of Iran. And the quality of our product wasn't as good as what could have come from Europe. So as a result, that business started suffering. At about the same time, the personal computers were picking up. So my brother started the first computer store in Shiraz. And I helped him out as much as I could. We started selling Commodore 16s, Commodore 64s, the Spectrum Sinclair, that were British-made computers, only 48K in memory. And we started making those, and it was phenomenal. It was an amazing experience. We had Ataris, and we would sell them, rent them, and there were amazing games on those devices. Even I would say by today's standards, they were really fun games. And so we did that for a few years, and that business was doing really well. But the government would definitely not make it easy for us. And I learned a lot about business during that time because I had the opportunity to really support my brother, and I would travel, I would go on business trips. So Shiraz to Tehran is about a 1-hour flight. and I would often fly for the day from Shiraz to Tehran, go get software, get hardware, and then fly back with the stuff back to Shiraz. And it kind of worked well because I was younger and I was less likely to be stopped. But you know, my brother, being a young guy who was at the age to enter the military, and also being a 20-some-year-old Baha'i, would have stood out a lot more and could have gone in trouble. It would have been a lot more likely for him to get in trouble than would have been the case for me. So I did a lot of the business trips for the business as a teenager. And those were really, I really enjoyed doing that. And that went on until 1986, when it just became clear that it was time for my brother to leave the country.